Hello everybody, 'tis I, the Rumpled One. Tuesday, August 21st, 2012. Mom and pop business. Been having an ongoing debate with just a couple people on my YouTube channel about mom and pop businesses and the big box stores like Walmart coming in and putting the mom and pops out of business. Well, let's talk about business. What is business? Business is any activity that you engage in for compensation with the intent of making a profit. So basically, business is all about the bottom line. Profit or loss. You making money or you losing money. Now, if you listen to that definition, I just did that off the top of my head. Because if you look in the dictionary, it's not that specific. But you have to understand, the intent is to make a profit. Because if you don't make a profit, you go out of business. Now, here where I live, small county, small town area, they always talk about, keeping the money local. Well, that's all well and good. Except when it comes to my business, which is Hip National Bank. Because I want to keep as much money in the Hip National Bank as possible. We've already talked about frugal versus cheap. But I'll give you a live, real-time example. Yesterday, I made a phone call to the local mom and pop business. I want to get another water tank. Because if you've been watching my videos, you see I've been clearing out some trees. Well, they have these 2,500 gallon water tanks. That's what everybody's using nowadays. And so I asked them how much was the water tank. And they told me it was $1,195. I'm like, okay. So then, that business is located about 10 miles from me. So then I called around. I tried to find a company that I had bought my water tank, my first water tank from about 20 years ago, I guess it was. Well, they're out of business. Guess they didn't make a profit. Actually, they got bought up by another company, so who knows, maybe the owner sold a business for a profit. So I found out that this other company doesn't sell to the end user. They don't sell retail. They only sell to retailers, people who are in business. So I found out that about 40 miles up in what I call Mount Pilot, there's a bigger business. It's not really a mom and pop. I guess they have a couple locations. Maybe some people would consider it mom and pop, but it's a bigger business. So I was on the phone and I said, do you have this certain 2,500 gallon water tank? And they say, yes, we do. I said, well, how much is it? They said, $995. So I could go to the local mom and pop and spend $11.95, or I could go up to Mount Pilot and spend $9.95. That's a difference of $200. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out where I'm going to buy my water tank from. Now, my question to you, mom and pop business advocates, when it comes to your business, Hip National Bank, where would you purchase your water tank from? That's right. I'm waiting to hear. I want you to send me a reply, especially if you're going to tell me you're going to spend an extra $200 at the mom and pop store. I want to know the reasons why you would do that. So it is 40 miles away, so I inquired, is that delivered? They go, no. I told them where I lived, and they said, well, that'd be an extra 50 bucks. Well, that's still a savings of $150. Once again, what would compel me to do business at the local mom and pop when just 40 miles away I can save $150, $200? You see, that's what happens. In business, if you're on the business side, you've got customers, they want to protect their Hip National Bank. So you might say, well, it's unfair that Walmart comes in and runs out these little mom and pop businesses. Well, see, I counter. I say, well, these mom and pop businesses have been, taking too much money out of Hip National Bank. Because if they're the only game in town and I want to play that game, then I got to pay their price. Sometimes there's room for negotiation. You say, well, if I pay cash, will you, take a little off? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no. Remember that pole saw I bought? Well, at the first saw shop, they had a different brand, but comparable. And the asking price was about 660 bucks. I said, okay. If I pay cash, will you come down? And he said, no. I said, okay, thank you. So I went to another saw shop. They had the model that I bought. And I said, will you come down in price if I pay cash? Because the price was $660. They go, yeah, we'll give it to you for $620. I go, sold. I saved $40, which I then spent there on other supplies. So, you see, I was protecting Hip National Bank. I got more value for my money. And that's why these mom and pop businesses go out of business. It's because they're in business to make a profit. They want to make as much money as they can, which is all well and good. But they got to remember, I'm the customer, and I want to save as much money as I possibly can, and I want to get the best value for my dollar. But you say, well, it's not fair because Walmart goes overseas and buys stuff from China, and they pay their people $1 a week or something like that. Well, there's a lot of stuff that gets published and gets posted. Not all of it's true. I've been to China. I've seen with my own two eyes what goes on in China when it comes to business. Because it just so happened that while I was in China, they were having their export-import fair in Guangzhou, China. That's their finance capital. I went to it. And actually, I got to check off one thing off my bucket list. Because I've always wanted to know the actual true price of goods. How much they really cost. Because you see, there's cost and there's price. And then there's value. They're not the same. Well, maybe I'll do another video on that. But back to the point, mom and pop. You see, maybe mom and pop doesn't buy from China. Well then, I guess they can't compete. Because see, in business it's about gaining market share. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that talked about. Let's just say there's 100 people in town that drink coffee. That's the market. And let's say there's a little coffee stand there. And about 80% of the people, 80 people, buy coffee at the coffee stand. And the other 20%, they buy the coffee at the grocery store and coffee beans, and they go home and make it themselves. So you got 80 customers. And so this store coffee shop has 80 customers rolling through there pretty much every day. And now let's say a Starbucks comes in. And so one day Starbucks opens and mom and pop only gets maybe 40 customers. They lost half their business to Starbucks. And then maybe a month later, they only got 20 customers. Starbucks is cleaning their clock. Now, you say it's unfair. Why is that unfair? See, competition is what it's all about. In business, you either grow or you die. You see, that mom and pop business has the same opportunities a Starbucks has to grow. Some people don't grow. They don't learn. They don't learn from their mistakes. They don't adopt, and they don't adapt. See, in business, you have to adopt. If you see somebody else doing something and it works, then you adopt it. And if you can't quite do it the exact same way, then you have to adapt. You have to adapt to the market. So if people are going to Starbucks as opposed to mom and pop coffee, there's a reason for that. Starbucks is giving them something that they're willing to spend their money for. They're providing a service and a good, a product. So it's that simple. But the funny thing is that maybe mom and pop's coffee's cheaper, but Starbucks might taste better. So the people would rather pay more money for that better tasting coffee. They see more value in it. See, business, it's about making profit. And to make profit, you have to get people to give you money for either a good that you sell them or a service you provide them, or a combination. So you have to wonder why anybody who's a consumer would want to spend more money at mom and pop when they could go to the big box store. But you want to say it's unfair. Well, so let's just say there's a little mom and pop business, something like maybe Hewlett Packard or Microsoft or Apple Computer or Dell Computer. You realize those were all mom and pop businesses at first. They started in garages and kitchens and bedrooms. And they grew large. Another mom and pop business, Mrs. Fields. Remember her? Chocolate chip cookie lady? What happened? I guess it was a passing fad, maybe? I don't know. It seemed like for a while everybody was eating Mrs. Fields chocolate chip cookies, but maybe they got tired of paying the price. And then there was Famous Amos. I think he still has some cookies around. I guess maybe that's just not a business that has any longevity to it. But my point is, mom and pop business. If you want to survive, you got to grow. You have to adapt and you have to adopt. If you want my money, you got to sell me what I want cheaper than the big box store, or as cheap. Or you have to only have something that nobody else has. If you want my money. And when you talk about fair, fair to who? Fair to the consumer or fair to the business? I mean, when it comes to marketing and markets, the markets take care of themselves. They don't need government intervention, because that just messes things up. Always. So, remember when, well, I don't know how old you people are, but when I was growing up, made in Japan meant crap. Total crap. You'd always go, oh, that's that Japanese crap. Nobody wanted it. But then Japan caught on. There was a man named Deming, came up with quality. And quality is not what most people think it is. They think it means, you know, like fine Corinthian leather and walnut hand-worn walnut paneling in the car. No, that's not quality. Quality is the adherence to standards. So for example, if you're milling something, you might have a tolerance of 0.001 inch. And anything plus or minus more is crap. It's rejected. Well, what happened was American car manufacturers had large tolerances, where in Japan, their tolerances was about 1/10 of what the United States automakers were. And the rest is history. That's why they give out the Deming Award. So, what's that got to do with mom and pop? Everything. Sometimes mom and pop are a little sloppy. Maybe a little sloppy in bookkeeping. Maybe a little sloppy in how they keep their store, how they manage their inventory. Because it's just mom and pop, they can't do everything, right? Well, you see, they can. They're focused on business. So, this video is probably getting into the boring zone now, maybe a little too long, but it's just that, you know, a lot of people talk about a lot of things, but they never really define the terms, and they wind up talking about things that in ways that have nothing to do with the essence of the thing. And the essence of business is profit. You don't make profit, you're out of business. And even the IRS says that. If you don't show a profit 2 out of 5 years, or maybe it's 3 out of 5 now, I haven't checked, they say that's not a business, that's a hobby. If you're losing money year after year after year, you're not in business, that's a hobby. So if you're out there baking chocolate chip cookies and selling them at the local farmer's market, but you fail to turn a profit after about 3 or 4 years, IRS is going to go, no, you can't write this off. You're not in business. It's just that simple. Business is about profit, the bottom line. That's just how it is. You may or may not like it, but that's how it is. And once again, people who are debating me on this mom and pop business, please post a response, type it in, make a video. You tell me why you should support a mom and pop business and pay more money rather than go to the big box store. I'm all ears.